It's a new week in the Crew Motorfest, and this week's theme is called HOONIGAN Way of Lightning, and so we have a new summit guide for you. Let's go! Real quick before I get into the video, shout out to Simgii for helping me out with a couple of the cuts on this race. You guys should check his channel out. There is a link in the description down below. Now, a disclaimer for this summit guide, I'm actually away in the UK. I'm visiting the EA offices to give some feedback on Need for Speed, which I'm super excited about but cannot talk about, and it's like 5 in the morning here when I did this summit, so I apologize about some of the driving. If you're looking for my full runs, if you want to see optimized runs, you can see that later in this week. Actually, probably the weekend after I get back, I'll be doing those runs. I'm just really sleepy, and it's just not easy to drive and get back into the game after a few days of rest. So let's get into it anyway. I've got lots of shortcuts and things to tell you, but the driving is just not optimal. Alright, the cars you're going to need for this week are the BMW i8 and the Audi HOONIGAN. That comes in the Summit bundle. You can buy that from the store. And then the additional vehicles I recommend are the FXXK Evo, the Porsche Taycan, and then you're going to need a slalom vehicle of your choice. Make sure you have score breaker, and then a boat of choice, and make sure you have score breaker. I like the little tiny fork boat, which, by the way, I don't even know what that boat is called because I just forgot to write it down. And then the off-road vehicle of choice, I use the Toyota Tacoma. And again, you're going to want score breaker on your slalom vehicle, your boat, and your off-road vehicle. Alright, the keys to this summit are using NOS and taking the shortcuts that I'm about to tell you. Here are the pro settings for all of the vehicles. Alright, getting into the events. The first event is called Electric Way. This one we do with the HOONIGAN. There are no shortcuts on this race, and since there is unlimited NOS, Slipstream isn't going to be much help to you. Sure, it would eliminate your need to use NOS, but this is probably the best week if you're normally a solo player most of the time, thanks to this modifier. The only advice I have for you on this one is don't hit any walls and use as much NOS as you need to keep the car at top speed. To utilize the unlimited NOS, you're going to let go of the NOS button and then press it again. It instantly refills for you. Alright, moving on to the next event called Lightning Bolt. This one you're going to be using the FXXK Evo. At 16%, you'll want to cut this corner and continue straight across the grass. Then at 45%, you're going to cut to the left and head directly to the next checkpoint. You're going to reset when you get to it. The flip is optional. To reset your car, make sure that you have rewind turned off in the difficulty settings. Alright, moving on to the next event, it's called Supercharge, and for this one I'm using the Porsche Taycan. There's only one cut in this race. It's at 91%. You can cut to the right, avoid the trees, and then reset your car when you get to the checkpoint. Again, to reset your car, you need to turn rewind off in your difficulty settings. Alright, moving on to the next one, which is called Hybrid Engine. For this one, I'm also using the Porsche Taycan. There are no shortcuts in this race. It really all comes down to racing lines and managing your speed. You have unlimited NOS, so even if you make slight mistakes, you can sort of overcome those with spamming your NOS. This car naturally understeers quite a bit, so brake early and take turns more cautiously. I'll be posting my full summit runs by the end of the weekend, like I said, after I return home, so if you'd like to watch a more optimized run from me, you can do so then. Alright, moving on to the next event, which is called High Energy. For this one, we're using the BMW i8. There are a few cuts in this race. At 7%, you'll cut to the right over this hill. If you carry enough speed and slam into the wall, you should reset. However, if you're moving a little slower like I did in this clip, you you can kind of just continue on without resetting. At 21%, you'll go straight towards the next checkpoint and reset when you get there. Then at 46%, you're going to do the exact same thing, head towards the checkpoint and reset. And finally at 61%, after leaving this tunnel, you're going to cut to the left of the checkpoint and jump over the hill. Make sure that you don't jump over the checkpoint though on the other side, then just continue on in the grass to meet up with the road towards the next turn. Alright, moving on to the next event, which is called Clean Power, using the Hummer EV. This track has several strange lines and it's not too long, so I'll let my full run play. I did get an okay time on this, but just a note, I think I can optimize this run down to below a 20, so check out my full summit runs to see if I actually completed that this weekend. And finally, let's talk about the Feats. For the first one, it's a speed trap. You should use this hill to get some speed and then clear out any of the breakable objects by starting your run up and then just rewinding a bunch of times to clear everything out. Then when you're ready to go, continuously rewind in order to get a clean run. If anything goes wrong, just rewind and just keep going again. I unfortunately do not have a set of nitrochemist parts on my drag car, but I was still able to get a decent score using this method. Next is the slalom, and for this one and all slaloms, you need to have a set of score breaker parts. The vehicle choice is not as important as having those parts. If you do have it, Alpha Grand Prix is by far the fastest for slaloms, so use score breaker parts with pure and skilled as your affix on an AGP car for your highest score. If you only have it for Street 1 or 2, then use those cars instead. Double the points is better than a faster car. Also, it is best to head in the opposite direction from which you spawn. Alright, moving on to the final feat, it's called the bullseye. This one requires a little bit of setup. You will need a pavement vehicle, then a boat, and then an off-road vehicle. It is best to have score breaker on all 3 vehicle types, but you'll do fine without it on 1 or 2 of the cars, so don't worry too much. Go to the vehicles you plan to use outside of the summit menu and make sure that you have them set as your favorite. The off-road vehicle should be your ground favorite, and the boat you choose should be your boat favorite. Then load into the bullseye and select your pavement vehicle and you're off. Obviously, don't miss the center of any of the bullseyes and you'll do fine. All right. Here are my final scores, and like I said, guys, I apologize. These scores are definitely not my best. I'm going to be optimizing this once I get home. Thank you guys so much for watching and bearing with me on this one. I'm actually recording this on a backup microphone as well and using my laptop to make all these clips. So hopefully you enjoyed the summit guide. Hopefully it helped you out. I appreciate all the support, and I will catch you on the next one. Trigger out.